stand for the invocation to be given by Pastor Boden Drzinzin, our Lord's Ascension Polish National Catholic Church, followed by pledge the flag.
Let us pray. Almighty and eternal God, you have revealed your glory to all nations. God of power and mind, wisdom and justice, for your authority is rightly administered, laws are enacted, and judgment is decreed. Assist with your spirit of counsel and fortitude the President of this United States. Let the light of your divine wisdom direct the deliberations of Congress and shine forth in all the proceedings and laws framed for our rule and government. We commend to you abundant mercy all citizens of the United States, that we may be blessed in the knowledge and sanctified in the observance of your holy law. May we be preserved in union and that peace which the world cannot give. And after enjoying the blessing of this life, be admitted to those which are eternal. We pray to you who are Lord and God, forever and ever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Belinsky. Present. Mr. DiGiacinto.
Present.
Ms. Dolan.
Present.
Mr. Donchez.
Present.
Mr. Raschuti.
Present.
Mr. Reynolds.
Present.
Mr. Evans.
Present. Approval of the minutes. Comments? Minutes stand approved. We move into public comment for ordinance and resolution to be voted on by council this evening, subject to 5 minutes time limit. Comments from the public on items to be voted on tonight. Left side. Seeing none, move to old business. Old business, members of council. Move to communications. Communication 5A, Library Executive Director, Bureau of Freemansburg, terminating contract.
A letter from Janet Fricker, Executive Director of the Bethlehem Area Public Library, advising that official notice was given by the Borough of Freemansburg that as of January 1st, 2012, Freemansburg will no longer be contracting services from the library.
The ordinance will be placed on the February 21st agenda for first reading. Communication 5B, City Solicitor, Use Permit Agreement for Public Property, American Association of University Women, Bethlehem Branch, 2012 Book Fair.
A memorandum from the City Solicitor attached to which is a proposed resolution and use permit agreement for Council's consideration. Please place this matter on Council's agenda for review and appropriate action.
The resolution will be placed on the February 21st agenda. Communication 5C, City Solicitor, Use Permit Agreement for Public Property, St. Luke's Hospital and Health Network, 2012, Boutique at the Rink.
A memorandum from the City Solicitor attached to which is a proposed resolution and use permit agreement for Council's consideration with the request to place this matter on Council's agenda for review and appropriate action.
The resolution will be placed on the February 21st agenda. Communication 5D, City Solicitor, amending Article 1703, requirements and qualifications to obtaining licensing to perform electrical work within the City of Bethlehem.
A memorandum from the City Solicitor attached to which is a proposed ordinance to amend Article 1703, requirements and qualifications to obtain licensing to perform electrical work within the city, with the request to place this matter on Council's agenda for review and action.
The ordinance will be placed on the February 21st agenda for first reading. Communication 5E, City Solicitor, Use Permit Agreement for Public Property, Celtic Cultural Alliance, St. Patrick's Day Concert.
A memorandum from the City Solicitor attached to which is a proposed resolution and use permit agreement for Council's consideration with the request to place this matter on Council's agenda for review and action.
The resolution will be placed on the February 21st agenda. Communication 5F, Community Development Committee Chairman, vendor 15 West 4th Street, 4th Street Club Entertainment, Limited Partnership, Chris Morales.
A memorandum from David DiGiacinto, Chairman of the Community Development Committee, requesting that the resolutions adopted granting certificates of approval to 4th Street Club Entertainment for a hot dog vending operation be reviewed by City Council and the Committee of the Historic Conservation Commission, South Bethlehem and Mount Airy, and asking whether or not the equipment being used by the vendor is in conformity with the rules established in the ordinance and approved by the Historic Conservation Commission Committee. The vendor has not reestablished the vendor license for the year 2012 and has continued to operate. The ordinance calls for the vendor's renewal to be reviewed again by the Historic Conservation Commission Committee and approved by Council. The vendor needs to pay a fee of $400 for the vendor license renewal. It is not certain whether the organization was ever issued a formal document from the city for a vendor license for this specific right-of-way in front of 15 West 4th Street, that is the area where the vendor has had a license to operate. It is assumed that the current owner of the address has granted Mr. Morales and or his employee the right to continue to operate there.
Remember, I will refer this to the Community Development Committee. We move to reports. 6A, President of Council. Item number 1, Councilmanic appointment, Karen D. Dolan, Recreation Commission.
President Evans appoints Karen Dolan, 55 Bridle Path Road, Bethlehem, 18017, to membership on the Recreation Commission to replace Eric Evans, effective until August 2014, sponsored by Michael Raschuti and David DiGiacinto.
Comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. DiGiacinto.
Aye.
Ms. Dolan.
I do.
Mr. Doncheck.
Aye.
Mr. Raschuti.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mrs. Belinsky. Aye. Mr. Evans.
Aye. Report, second item, City Council met as a committee of the whole this evening at 6 p.m. in Town Hall to receive an update and presentation on steel stacks. Report item number 3, a special City Council meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 16th, 7 p.m. here in Town Hall to fill the City Controller vacancy. We move to reports. Mayor.
Nothing.
No reports, thank you. There are no ordinances for final passage. We move to number 8, new ordinances. 8A, Bill number 1, 2012, amending Article 913, water rates and charges increase.
An ordinance of the City of Bethlehem, Counties of Lehigh and Northampton, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending Article 913, the codified ordinances entitled Water Rates and Charges. The Council of the City of Bethlehem hereby ordains that Section 913.01 of the codified ordinances, which reads as follows: water service rates shall be amended to read as follows. The Council of the City of Bethlehem hereby fixes and establishes the following rates governing the furnishing of water with respect to real estate situated both inside and outside of the city. The ordinance lists the schedules for meter rates, increases the 5/8-inch meter customer charge and the rate for 1,000 gallons for all classes of customers, eliminates the Upper Sauk and Honor System customer charge under Schedule E, meter rate sales for resale, and also adds language under Schedule A, meter rates general residential customer service for Country Squire Estates, Wilmar Manor, and the Airport Road customers for payment of their total outstanding loan amortizations. The total bill for a residential customer using 15,000 gallons of water per quarter with a 5/8 by 3/4 inch meter would increase from $74.69 to $84.29 per quarter, or by approximately 12.85%. Section 913.01E states that the new in-city and out-of-city rate shall take effect on the date of approval of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission, that is December 16, 2011. Section 2 is a repealer. Bill number 1 is sponsored by Michael Raschuti and Gene Belinsky.
Comments?
Good question.
Councilwoman Dolan?
Are we phasing out the use of 5/8-inch meter, 5/8-inch meters? And what happens to those folks who have those? Or does anyone know? Is that just no longer
Can I
standard?
ask that question, Mr. Brown?
No, we have the majority of our meters in our user community are 5/8 for residential. I think what you're looking at is the repealer where we're actually removing the current rate, and in pages following we put in the new rate.
So the rates that are changing are the ones for the majority of our users?
Yes.
So there's going to be no change to the larger?
The only meter rate changing is the 5/8 inch meter.
Okay, and what is the percentage of the majority? That's residential customers, I guess?
Yes.
That size?
Predominantly, yes.
Okay, I see. Thank you. Straight through.
Any comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. DiGiacinto.
Aye.
Ms. Dolman.
Aye.
Mr. Donchev.
Aye.
Mr. Raschuti.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mrs. Belinsky. Aye. Mr. Evans.
Aye. 8B, Bill number 2, 2012, amending Article 927, sewer rental increase.
An ordinance of the City of Bethlehem, Counties of Lehigh and Northampton, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending Article 927 of the codified ordinances entitled Sewer Rental. The Council of the City of Bethlehem ordains as follows at Section 927.02 of the codified ordinances of the city, which reads as follows: general rates of rental shall be amended to read as follows. The City of Bethlehem hereby establishes the following rates governing the furnishing of sewer service with respect to properties inside and outside the city. Paragraph A lists the sewer charges to the City of Bethlehem based on whether the billing is quarterly or monthly, with an increase of 17%. Paragraph B lists the rates that have been increased by 5% for system maintenance of mains by agreement between the city and Hanover Township, Northampton County, dated April 16, 2007. Section 2 is a repealer. Bill number 2 is sponsored by Jean Belinsky and Karen Dolan.
Comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. DiGiacinto.
Aye.
Ms. Dolman.
Aye.
Mr. Donchev.
Aye.
Mr. Raschuti.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mrs. Belinsky. Aye. Mr. Evans.
Aye. 8C, Bill number 3, 2012, guaranteed revenue note, Penvest.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the issuance of the City of Bethlehem's guaranteed revenue note, series of 2012, in the total amount of $9,429,730, referred to as the 2012 note, for the design and construction project of the city's digester system and the waste activated sludge thickening improvements project. The 2012 note being issued through the Penvest program, which reimburses project costs advanced, authorizing an increase in the city's non-electoral indebtedness, fixing the form, number, date, interest, and maturity of the notes, making for a covenant for the payment of debt service on the notes, providing for the filing of the required documents with the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development for approval of the issuance of the debt, providing for the appointment of a single fund depository for the notes, authorizing execution, sale, and delivery of the notes and documents related, providing certain covenants and restrictions for security and payment of the notes, establishing certain tax covenants regarding use of the proceeds of the notes, repealing certain ordinances or parts of ordinances, and establishing the effective date of the ordinance. Bill number 3 is sponsored by Michael Raschuti and J. Glenn Reynolds.
Comments? Please call the roll. Bill number 3.
Mr. DiGiacinto.
Aye.
Ms. Dolman.
Aye.
Mr. Donchev.
Aye.
Mr. Raschuti.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mrs. Belinsky. Aye. Mr. Evans.
Aye. We move to resolutions 9A, amending rules of council. Rule 6E.
Be it resolved by the Council of the City of Bethlehem that the rules of council, Resolution 2011-214, passed December 21st, 2011, be amended in Rule 6E in the phrase, returning to the name of the first member of council in alphabetical order when the rotating alphabetical basis is completed for the 7 members of council, and in that phrase the word 7 is deleted. Resolution 9A is sponsored by Michael Raschuti and Karen Dolan.
Comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. DiGiacinto.
Aye.
Ms. Dolman.
Aye.
Mr. Donchev.
Aye.
Mr. Raschuti.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mrs. Belinsky.
Oh, I'm sorry, didn't hear you, Cindy.
Aye. Mr. Evans.
Aye. I'll accept the motion to consider resolutions 11B through 11E as a group and ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
I'll move it.
And to read the resolutions, I'll accept a motion from Councilman Dancha, seconded by Councilwoman Dolan. Clerk, please call the roll on the motion.
Mr. DiGiacinto.
Aye.
Ms. Dolan.
Aye.
Mr. Donchez.
Aye.
Mr. Raschuti.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mrs. Belinsky. Aye. Mr. Evans.
Aye.
All are certificates of appropriateness under the provisions of the Act of the Pennsylvania Legislature and Bethlehem Ordinance. 9B, a proposal to install a new stairway at the rear of the building at 401 to 405 East 4th Street. 9C, to secure a certificate of appropriateness for the vinyl window and door signs at 339 Broadway. 9D, to install a sign above the doors at 822 East 4th Street. 9E, to install signs at 520 to 526 East 4th Street. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Bethlehem that certificates of appropriateness are granted for the work. The resolutions are sponsored by J. William Reynolds and Michael Raschuti.
Comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. DiGiacinto.
Aye.
Ms. Dolan.
Aye.
Mr. Donchez.
Aye.
Mr. Raschuti.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Mrs. Belinsky. Aye. Mr. Evans.
Aye. Move to new business. Reports. Councilman Reynolds.
There will be a Finance Committee meeting on Monday, February 13, 2012 at 7 p.m. at Town Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Raschuti.
The Human Resources and Environment Committee will meet on Monday, February 27, 2012 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall on the subject of reviewing candidates for the Human Relations Commission.
Thank you. Any other new business? Councilwoman Dolan.
I don't think Joe Clark is here. I don't see him. Joe Kelly, I mean, sorry.
No, he's not.
Who's that? But I wanted to go on the record as raising this issue. With some reservations, we approved a certificate of appropriateness for a solar collector on the top of the Flatiron building in the south side of Bethlehem. And I remember at the time there were a lot of questions asked, and the answers that we got were very clear that the solar collector would absolutely not take away from the look of the structure, which is one of the most historic and beautiful structures in Bethlehem. And I got a look at it today, and it doesn't look appropriate. And I don't think you could find too many people who are more pro-solar power than me, but I'm wondering if there isn't something that can be done to still keep the solar collector effective, but to not look like a giant upside down, or actually a giant empty ice cream cone or something like that. And it's really big and out of proportion. Up on the second floor of this building, on the building over in the waiting area, you see a picture that has the Flatiron building as its focus. And I mean, if I were to take a little piece of white paper and show you the scale of this solar collector, which looks like a big, one of those big TV channel, like dish, yes, satellite dish, looks like a giant satellite dish. Although someone described it to me earlier today as something Ghostbusters, and it sort of looks like that too. But it really doesn't. I mean, it's too bad. But sometimes I think we do need to get some assuredness that when people come to us with assurances that we aren't going to notice this, we're not going to see it, it's only going to be visible from this view or that view, and that the scale is proper, and when we're given Photoshop documents that show that something will look like this once it's installed, and look like this from another view once it's installed, that there's some perspective that's being put into those documents, that it isn't just designed to mislead us. And I would have to see those documents again and hold them against each other. But I distinctly remember that we were told that the only place you would be able to see that is if you were on the Hill to Hill Bridge. That's my recollection. That other than that, it would not be noticeable. And I would ask other members of council to go take a look, because you can see it practically right underneath the building, and just across the street in the building. It's really quite something. So my apologies to Mary Congrass. She actually took me out to lunch to warn me about this one, and I looked at the architectural drawings and the projections, and it just didn't match what Mary I obviously understood better than we did. So if there is some way in the future that we can get that, maybe asking for what you would have on a regular map, where it would show scale, might help. If we can look for scale, perhaps in any drawings that we get, so that we know that that's being considered. And again, I'm not sure that this wasn't to scale, but I would be surprised if it was, because what we're looking at now is not what we saw in the photos, as far as I can tell. So I'm on the record for that.
Thank you, Councilwoman Dolan. I would ask Mr. Riker if you communicate with Mr. Kelly on that topic. Thank you. Before we move into public comment, I'd like to welcome Cub Scout Pack 335 from West Bethlehem. Thank you for coming out tonight. If you could stand up there for us. Thanks for coming out. We will move into public comment. This session is for public comment on any subject. It is subject to a 5-minute time limit. We have 3 people signed up that will begin our speakers. The first speaker signed up, Mary Toulouse. If you can, your name, your address for the record.
Okay, my name is Mary Toulouse, and I live at 1528 West Market Street on the west side of Bethlehem. And the reason that I'm here tonight is I'm also president of the Neighborhood Association, and working with the Broad Street businesses and North by Northwest. We actually are here to deliver some Broad Street business directories that we have put together. Perhaps you'll remember about a year and a half ago, with your help, some of you came to a series of meetings that you helped us organize. People from the city were very helpful. Darlene, Kathy Basu helped us sort of how to start a partnership in a community where residents and businesses feel that quality of life depends on a good entente with everybody doing well. We thank Ralph Karp for having lent us the DAR building so we could meet. In any event, the end result of this, or not the end result, but one of the major results of this, is what we call the useful directory. And we have one for each and every one of you. And this lists over 100 businesses, I think. Many of them have advertisements in them. We have a map, some sites to see in the area. And so we want to thank you for that kind of support. I would say that in terms of the community, a week ago we had about 50 to 60 people come out to pick up their directories, talk with the business people. Right now, this morning I must have spent a couple of hours trying to put a spreadsheet together of volunteers who want to deliver this directory, all 2,000 copies of it, to every nook and cranny on the west side of Bethlehem. So I mean, this is something that really is where the heart of our West Side community is being able to walk to our businesses, being able to share common boundaries, and do it in a way that we all appreciate. We do have a couple of concerns which I will mention, and that is that we are sort of wondering what's going to happen now that North by Northwest has lost its administrator funding for that project. He certainly was very effective. We have whole blocks of commercial space that are empty. We'd love to see it filled with things like a grocery store, as opposed to, I think our latest addition was a check cashing facility. And many of the merchants and residents are seriously disappointed by the resurfacing of Broad Street. We'd rather hoped that there might be bicycle lanes or something, But we've even lost our crosswalks. You can barely cross that street at this point. If you cross at 8th Avenue at the light, that's fine, and then maybe you can make it half a mile down the street to Pennsylvania Avenue, but it certainly is not pedestrian friendly, which is really what this neighborhood is all about. And I would just throw in too that we're hoping that we might be able to get the pool back on the west side, which has been closed for, well, it'll be soon 3 years. So in any event, we just want to deliver this to you. We hope that you all will consider shopping on or visiting some of the professionals on West Broad Street, and that as you're in your different deliberations, you'll keep us in mind that we do need the support, just as you helped us get going. We do still need that kind of support. So thank you.
Thank you.
Should I just give it to you?
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes. Your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Shannon Patrick from 1019 West Broad Street. I am here obviously with Mary from the MANA organization. I worked with Mary putting this directory together and also rallying the businesses along West Broad Street. I'm here representing the group tonight. A lot of us are feeling like the redheaded stepchild of Bethlehem, kind of the forgotten path, the drive from Bethlehem to Allentown. So about 56 businesses participated in listing their business, their hours of operation, their specialties, along with placing advertisements. This was definitely a door-to-door effort, trying to convince some of the businesses that this is going to help drive hopefully some business to their establishments, as well as make folks aware that the neighbors behind and off of Broad Street, all the services that are available to them out on the main street. And it's very different than a main street in the sense that we're very specialized. You're going to have a lot of service providers. You're going to have your comic store, your massage therapists. Basically anything that you can get at a mall, you can either get on Main Street or you can get on West Broad Street. So basically we're coming to you today to let you know that we're also going to be, that Mary had mentioned the mixer that we did participate in at the Mint, and we're going to be having a block party coming up probably in April or May, focusing on the businesses and inviting all of our neighbors and residents of Bethlehem to come check us out and see what we're all about. So I will make sure I will communicate all that information to you, because we would love for you to come join us as well. But basically just wanted to make you aware that we're out there and we're trying. And we're trying to be a viable corridor, and any help, as Mary had said, to make the street more appealing to a new business coming in, we welcome your help and support. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a beautiful direct, and thank you for your efforts in the city.
It turned out pretty nice for a first edition, didn't it? So hopefully the first of many to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Zabrowski. So they move this on. There we are.
Good evening, Mr. President, Council. My name is Greg Zabrowski. I live at 23 Dewberry Avenue, and I'm here this evening to offer a thank you, a concern, and a request. My thank you is to this council and Attorney Spadoni for their due diligence and concern about the request for a variance for a drug and alcohol treatment center on Dewberry Avenue in the former Baptist Church. I would like to also thank specifically to Mr. DiGiacinto, who I thought held up well in cross-examination in an arduous zoning hearings and represented the people's interests very well. If anything, what we've learned in this process, this has been going on for about a year now, that is the zoning meetings for that proposed facility, is that the population and the neighborhood is increasingly has expanded, and its concerns have increased. I don't want to belabor the issue this evening, but I will point out some facts that have come across in the last 6 months. The population that potentially could inhabit that building will not be screened. There will be no background checks. There'll be a turnover rate of 70 per month, with potentially 1,000 people coming in and out of there. Now think about that. Next to a school, no background checks for drug and alcohol, no, which potentially you could potentially, and I have a background in behavioral analysts and drug and alcohol counseling, you potentially could have felons coming in and out of that population because they can come and go as they please. So that's a serious concern, to say the least. The provider is a for-profit provider. By the way, I'm no baseball pitcher, but I have lived in this community all my life, and I have served in public office, and I've served in a number of boards and authorities. And I do resent the fact that the testimony was given at a zoning hearing that people in this community don't understand treatment. Let me preface that. Let me make a comment with regard to that. Nobody in the Northside Action Committee, no neighbor that I've met in this whole process, some of them here this evening, are against treatment. The proposal on face value is difficult to accept as a credible proposal because of where it is, the location next to a school, a vulnerable population, and in a residential community. Another fact that needs to see the light of day is that the same provider who wants to provide this treatment in this community could not get a variance and could not be accepted in their own community in Malvern today. That is, zoning ordinances in Malvern do not allow a drug treatment center in a residential community. So they would like to grandfather this in because of our special exemption, which we hope, and I'll get to that when I ask for my request, that zoning in Bethlehem will not allow this in the future. I want to repeat that. In Malvern today, where this drug facility is today, according to the law and the zoning ordinances in Malvern, you could not duplicate that facility in their own neighborhood, in their own community. So they would like to farm their expertise into Bethlehem, into a drug rehabilitation center that they do not even allow in their own community. So much in the faith that they have in their own abilities. But the other point I wanted to make is the community's concerns have actually, in our opinion, and I have others who could speak for that, have actually have increased because of the nature of the population. And the overall concern is the general character of the neighborhood. I'm going to go back to one quick comment here, and then I'll move on to my request. Bethlehem is a unique city. It's always, many people have run for public office, mayors have said it, including the present mayor. What distinguishes Bethlehem is its unique character of its neighborhoods, which makes it attractive, a very livable place. I think when we make decisions, we need to make sure we keep that in mind. And that is what attracts people. No one is against rehabilitation. As I said, we are objecting to the site, the place, and also the population and the risk for that neighborhood and that population next to a school. On its face, I think it's an absurd proposal. Our request, as you move forward with adopting new zoning ordinances for, I know you're having hearings, but Mr. President, we would like to make sure that the population and the general population be informed of when those hearings will be held for when you adopt your new zoning ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Zabrowski. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Public comment. Anybody like to make or talk during a comment? Yes.
My name is Stu Early, 2277 Main Street. I'm part of the community that is concerned about the special exception that ATIA is seeking for the Calvary Baptist Church and the conversion into a residential treatment center for drug and alcohol addicts. And I'd like to offer my thanks for the City Council and their decision to intervene in opposition to that request for a special exception. It's been quite helpful. As you know, some of the neighbors have actually hired an attorney, and it's not free. It costs money, and so we're thankful and grateful for the support that you've given. During the the 20-plus hours of hearings that the zoning hearing board has had to sit through on this request, there've been a lot of conversations. Most recently, Dicky Knowles, as you probably saw, came in and witnessed to the benefits of rehab, and I applaud him for that. I think that's fantastic. But I don't regard him as an expert in citing rehab facilities. He did make a statement that he was aware of a high school that was located right next to a rehab facility in Bethlehem. So I went and checked that out, and in fact, that's not the case. There's more than a half a mile between Livinggreen Rehab Center and Ben Salem High School. There's a significant road. I mean, it's not at all like Becca next door to this rehab center that he's proposing. It's hard to know where he's going with his ideas, and I don't profess to know that, okay? One of the possibilities, of course, would be some apartment buildings, and he's been turned down a couple times now for an apartment on the 5 acres across the street from this rehab center. But he is aware of community-based treatment philosophy, and in fact, he could be positioning to create a concentration of rehab capabilities in that location. As you know, he's got an application he's in appeal now for a 125-bed hospital and acute treatment center on the 5 acres. He's got this request for a special exception at the church location, that's 70 beds. He's purchased a house on the corner of Dewberry and Center, and that could easily become an outpatient facility. He's actually had a realtor approach 3 other homeowners there, moving north on Center on that side of the street. And if you, again, I don't know what he's thinking about, but if you put it all together, it could be quite a concentration of rehab facilities. And I think that would be very harmful to Becca. And it would also, I think, change the character of the neighborhood significantly. I think it would impact the health and safety of the residents, probably impact real estate values. And it would not be, I don't think, the way you would like to see visitors to Bethlehem from the north come in, and one of their first impressions after passing the beautiful churches would be a rehab center. And that just doesn't seem consistent with what I would like to see Bethlehem. So I would encourage you to continue to be involved in this. I appreciate Chris's involvement in the residential treatment center and at 111 Dewberry, but there may be other opportunities for you to be involved going forward. And finally, I guess I would echo Greg's comment. I think as a result of this experience, a lot of people have become much more engaged in the process that one goes through when you ask for a special exception. And so we know you're pretty far along in your deliberations on changing the zoning ordinances, but we would like the opportunity to participate, and I hope you'll make that opportunity available through notice of when you're meeting, when the hearings would be, and through posting, as I think you've done already, some of your draft comments and ideas. Thank you.
Anyone else like to address council under public comment? Mr. Morales.
Good evening, Chris Morales, 649 Alaska Street. Now, I don't know where to start, and I think that's everyone's opinion in every department. There's a lot of confusion that goes on being the first vendor here in the city of Bethlehem, and there's a lot of mix-ups, and there's no really clear, concise, set in stone policies or procedures to do anything from the start of initiating the permits down to the renewal process. And that's something that I own a car dealership as well, and it's regulated by the state, and that's a lot easier to kind of understand than setting up a food cart. And I know it's due to it being a It's a new thing for the city, and I know everyone's still kind of working through it. But I do want to, I came up here specifically because I understand everyone's trying to work through the procedures and work through, I know, all my permits, aside from the renewal fee, the renewal fee has not been paid, and I'm here to just let everyone know I'm not hiding behind not paying it. It's more or less, there's a lot of confusion. I go in and nobody knows who has to get paid for that fee or where it's going. I do appreciate the heads of the health department and the engineering department, as they've helped tremendously try to figure out an easy way to go through the renewal process. I'd also like to thank especially Councilman Evans for reaching out and taking his own personal time to call me. He's a very busy guy, and for someone to call me, it shows that the council people really care, that they're actually trying to put forth a structure, the new council as we have here. And also to Councilman, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce her name. Terrible with names. I received a copy of your memo, and it seems like you're just as confused as everyone else. And I know that that's across the board. I called Councilman Evans about it, and I appreciate the fact that everyone here is actually working towards a solution so that we can put this behind us, because from hearing some of the other people, I think everyone has bigger fish to fry. So I do appreciate everyone's efforts in getting this going, and I invite anyone either on the council or in the city, any other business owners, to feel free to come and give your opinion and inputs. And I'm not trying to be the bad guy that bucks the system. I'm trying to work with my community. So I do appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morales. You'll be notified when that committee meeting date is set.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shire.